Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Today, we're discussing the book, 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert, Dr. John P. Hayes. And we're going to play clips of our interview with Dr. John Hayes, as well as some of the franchisors who made the list of 12 amazing franchise opportunities. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. Stick around because we've got a great show.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822. Franchise Interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 8 years, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Today, we're discussing the new book, 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert, Dr. John Hayes. I'm going to play clips of our interview with Dr. John Hayes, as well as some of the franchisors who made the list of 12 amazing franchise opportunities. We had Dr. Hayes on one of our anniversary shows, which has often been a very big deal over the last 8 years. We've had some of the biggest names in franchising on those particular shows. So why don't we go right into our interview with Dr. John Hayes, author of 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015.
Honor for me to be with you.
Thanks, Dr. Hayes. Dr. Hayes, the first time, I don't know if you wouldn't remember, but I met you 10 years ago. You were giving a presentation on capturing and keeping a customer.
Yeah.
And the following day, I purchased your recordings of your teleseminar course, and I have to tell you, it was one of the best investments I ever made in my life. I still have those cassettes to this day, and I think it's the only reason I keep my cassette players. So just a wonderful...
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you saying so. That's has been my most popular seminar through the years, is how to capture and keep customers.
It's a wonderful presentation. I use it to this day. I'm a professor today, and I attribute part of that to you, because I use a lot of your style. And
great.
Just really, it was a great presentation. Then I met you, it was in 2005. I saw you speak again at the IFA convention in Washington, D.C., and it was a 2-hour presentation. I thought it was really the best presentation on the topic of franchising. And
oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And you also, I don't know if you know this, you also gave me my topic for my thesis. For my
great.
So you have played a very important role in my life, and you probably don't even know it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that to you.
To hear. It makes Thanksgiving week all the more special to hear things like that.
Absolutely. We also
in my past, I was a college professor, as I think you probably know. And in fact, I'm looking to go back to a university right now, either in the spring semester or in the fall. That's always been my plan, to teach again. Right. And the greatest feeling comes from getting an email from someone that you rescued out of your junk folder, and someone sends you an email and says, you probably don't remember me, but 20 years ago I was in your classroom and you said this, this, and this. And sometimes they say that I said they'd never make it, and now they're the editor of something or another. Exactly. In other cases, it's because I encouraged them in some way. And so those are the best messages you can ever get.
Absolutely.
By changing someone's life, definitely.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. How did you get involved in franchising, Dr. Hayes? I know bits and pieces of it, but I know it's a great story.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story to me. I don't know that it is to other people, but particularly as a writer and as a student of so many different topics and disciplines, I was a young college professor at Temple University in Philadelphia, which is, to me, the greatest city in the world. I'm not from there, but I lived there 20 years, and Temple has a fantastic school of journalism, and I was the head of the magazine writing program. And one day, the continuing education department said that they were looking for new courses to be taught by faculty, and you could get, a couple $100 if you teach on a Saturday morning. So I came up with this course called How to Write a Book to Promote Your Business. And I had never done that. At that time, I hadn't done it. I've since done it many, many times. But I hadn't done it then, but I knew it was a great idea. I knew it would work. And so they offered the course, and I think it was something like $195 or something like that to take the course. And they called the Friday before, and they said, well, we've got, or they called, like 10 days before, and said, we've got bad news and we've got good news. Bad news is that nobody signed up. There's no paid registrants for your course, so we've had to cancel it. Well, that was very disappointing, and I couldn't imagine what's the good news. And they said 3 people said they really wanted to be in the course, but they could not make it on that particular Saturday, and they gave us their phone number, and they want you to call them. They need to talk to you. Well, I ended up doing a book with all 3 of those people. The first one was a divorce attorney, the number one emerging divorce attorney in the Delaware Valley. Pennsylvania had just passed no-fault divorce law, and this fellow wrote a book called Divorce, Your Fault, My Fault, No Fault. He needed to get it ghost-edited. He needed to get it self-published, and I ended up handling that project for him, and he went on to do extremely well, all kinds of publicity for his business, and still very active today in Philadelphia. Then the second guy said that he was a guru in productivity and manufacturing. He could teach manufacturers how to increase productivity, but it cost $100,000 to buy his consulting and to buy his software, and he was having a hard time getting his foot in the door and selling that to various companies. And he thought if he had a book, he would be able to do it. He was exactly right. And actually, he wanted to self-publish that book, but Amacom, people confuse that with Amazon. That wasn't around at the time. Amacom was the American Management Association's communications division. They published that book called How to Win Productivity in Manufacturing. And then the third guy called and said, I called him and he said, well, I'm a franchisor. And I said, okay, 1979, hadn't even heard the word. I had to go look it up, find out what that's about. I still didn't know what it meant. And so then I met him. He wanted me to write a newsletter for him, for his franchisees. And ultimately, he wanted me to write a book. And that's when I wrote Franchising the Inside Story, which was the first book on how to buy a franchise. Yeah. And that book really created my career without me having any inkling what would happen. When the book came out, Harper published that book, when I did the media tour, the media would always introduce me sort of like you guys did this morning, but I can at least say this morning I deserved it But back in those days, they would say that I was the world-renowned authority on franchising. And, you know, I had spent all of maybe 6 months writing about franchising and learning about franchising. I had interviewed 100 people, and they were, you know, IFA and franchisors and franchisees and the United States government and lawyers. So I really, as a journalist, I had a good working knowledge of franchising, and I was able to do a terrific book that helped a lot of people. I still get people come up to me to this day, even though I think that book might be available as a used book on Amazon, but it's not, you know, in bookstores. But people still come up and say, you know, I read that before I bought a franchise, and I want to thank you. Or in some cases, they don't want to thank me because they're not happy that they bought a franchise in some cases. So that's how I got involved in it. The book created an opportunity where IFA put me on their traveling faculty for about 3 years. I toured the country teaching with a group of other faculty that IFA had doing regional meetings, and that introduced me to a lot of franchisors and to suppliers who wanted me to write for them and teach and train for them. And then the IFA introduced the international trade missions. They took that over from the Department of Commerce, and they needed someone who would go on the trade missions and travel with, at the time it was Peter Holt, and he and I are terrific friends to this day. He, of course, went on from IFA to work with a number of franchise companies like Mailboxes, et cetera, and now he's with Tasty Delight. Right. But we traveled all over the world with a dozen franchisors at a time doing trade missions to sell master licenses. That introduced me to media and to franchisors internationally, and it was just a great opportunity to build a terrific business that I operated for about 10 years until I got worn out, and I had, at the height of my business, I had about 20 employees, and I said, you know, I can't do this anymore. I always had 25 to 30 franchisor clients. 95, 96, I sold the business so that I could concentrate on writing and speaking, ultimately wanting to go back to a university. And I was on the Dwyer Group board of directors, one of the best franchise companies in the world. And I was on that board for about 12, 13 years until the company went public, went private. I mean, the company went public when I went on the board in about 90, 91, somewhere in there, and I was on the board until 2003 when the company was purchased and taken private.
Wow.
So
what was it, Dr. Hayes, initially? I mean, you wrote the book, you know, kind of a trendsetter, writing the book Franchising Inside Story, but what was it about franchising that you were so attracted to initially to want to write the book?
You know, when I discovered, well, first of all, I'll tell you the truth. I wrote the book because the guy paid me $8,000. And, you know, I was a college professor at that time making about $11,000, $12,000.
Right.
So the guy gave me $8,000, and I think I used that to buy a house or something at the time. But here is the thing that kept me interested for 30 years that I've been involved this year in franchising, and that is I've met, the first franchisees I ever met were this client who wanted to do the book, Trimark. It's not around anymore, but they were a competitor to Valpak, and Valpak had a couple hundred franchisees, and Trimark had 80, and Trimark was like Burger King trying to catch McDonald's, and, you know, it was never going to happen, but they could still have a great business. Well, I started meeting with their franchisees who came out of advertising, who came out of teaching, who came out of management, who came out of sales. They came from all kinds of backgrounds. One had been a financial planner, and they got into Trimark because they liked working in a community. They liked the hours of that kind of a job. They didn't want to travel. They controlled their own destiny by how many salespeople they hired, how many doors they knocked on, and how aggressive they were, and how good they were at going out and selling cooperative direct mail advertising is what it was all about. They had to sell the coupons, and they had their own destiny in their hands, and I loved that. And they didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Right. They were given the system by the franchisor, who said, if you do this, then you do this, and if you'll do this, and then you make this happen, and you send everything to us in Wilmington, Delaware. We do all the printing, we do all the collating, we do all the mailing out. All you've got to do is sell and take care of your clients and take care of your small business, which would usually involve maybe 3 or 4 people. I thought, and some of them worked out of their home. And, I was making $11,000 a year. They were making $50,000, $80,000, $150,000 a year. And I thought, wow, I could do that. I could do that kind of a business. And then I found out there were a whole lot of other businesses that I could do as well. And I went on to write a book with David Sandler, the founder of the Sandler Sales Institute, another terrific franchise. I wrote You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. It's a book that the Sandler franchisees still sell to this day. I love that franchise, too, and thought I could do this franchise. Again, David Sandler created a system that showed you how to do the training, how to go out and sell your services, how to build your business. You could operate out of your home or a small office or a conference center, depending on how big you wanted to build your business. And so these businesses were fascinating. And when I met a guy like Don Dwyer, well, all the light bulbs turned on and the excitement really, the entrepreneurial juices really got going, because Don was a guy who just inspired anybody who would sit down with him for 5 or 10 minutes. I remember a guy, Freddie Mittman, who became Don's master franchisee for Rainbow. I think it was for Rainbow International. I might have that wrong. It might have been one of Don's other. It might have been Mr. Reuter, the plumbing franchise. But Freddie, who was a motivational speaker in the UK, met Don at an airport, talked to him for an hour, and said, I don't know anything about franchising. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about the particular business, but I want to be the master franchisee for the Dwyer Group in the United Kingdom. I think he and his family, still are to this day. Don was so inspirational, he had that effect on me. I traveled all over the world with Don, and I learned that, if I didn't want to be in the carpet cleaning or the water restoration business particularly, but I met a lot of people who, again, they had been teachers and salespeople and advertising people and middle managers, and they bought a Rainbow International franchise, and they were building it and making $100,000 and $150,000. Don didn't think it was possible himself, but at one of his conventions, he rewarded a guy who built $1 million carpet cleaning business. It was unheard of at the time. So, with all those exciting things, and I didn't even get into the retail side and the food side. There's lots of exciting things there as well that people can do as franchisees. And I worked with non-competitive companies. So because I was working with Don and he was Rainbow carpet cleaning and then fire and water restoration later, I couldn't work with any of his competitors at the same time. So I was always working with, if I was working with mailboxes, et cetera, then I couldn't work with anybody else. Janney King was, such a simple, wonderful business, and Janney King was my client for many, many years, so I couldn't work with Coverall or any of the other competitors to them. So I always had different businesses that I worked with, and it was always fascinating, and that's what kept me interested all these years.
You should write a book, Dr. Hayes, about all of your experiences.
Well, I plan to do that. Yeah, that's definitely, but I think I got to wait until I no longer want to work in franchising, because I can't, to write that book, I'm going to tell you the truth about franchising and the people in franchising particularly, and some of the companies in franchising. And it makes my point that I've always said franchising is not for everyone. In fact, it's not for most people. And all franchisors are not created equal. Some are a whole lot better than others. And it's your job as a prospective franchisee to know before you invest in one which ones are the good ones and which ones are not. There are some bad guys in franchising. Some of them have come and gone. Some of them still remain. But, there have been lots of it's an industry that's it's not really an industry. It's a community of 75-plus industries that use franchising as their method of distribution. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of backstabbing. There are a lot of petty jealousies and stupidities and so forth.
Yeah, like in any industry you're going to have.
In any industry, absolutely. Yeah. It makes it certainly makes it more interesting. Mm-hmm. And when you're on the inside, you know what the truth really is.
Right.
You
well,
find
Well, let's stay on that theme, Dr. Hayes. I mean, you mentioned over 75 industries. Obviously, there's more than 3,000 franchise opportunities. Maybe talk a little bit more about the advice that you would give to our listeners, potential franchise owners when they're looking at buying a franchise. What should they be looking out for, and what should they be doing?
Yeah, well, this is what I cover frequently. For more than 20 years, I've been teaching for the International Franchise Expo, the A to Z's of buying a franchise. And I would say, what comes to mind immediately, and this is sort of because of something that I've been writing for my blog lately, don't buy the hot franchise just because it's a hot franchise and you think that, buying a hot franchise is the way to go. Buying a hot franchise is the quickest way to get burned in franchising. And I think I offer a free webinar. I think it's still posted on my blog at howtobuyafranchise.com that people can go and download that. And I make the points about, why you don't want to necessarily buy a franchise because it's hot. And yet, I hear that more often. People will come up to me and say, I just heard everything you said for the last 2 hours, but what's hot? What's I want to buy a franchise. I don't care what industry it's in. I want to buy what's hot. And, I really don't even want to talk to those people. But there are plenty of franchisors who will talk to them if they can convince them, that they've got a hot franchise, because franchisors, particularly today, need to sell franchises, and they're looking for, if they've got sex appeal and they can use that. So that's, one of the things that a franchise prospect needs to be careful of. And then, I think you've got to do whether you do a self-evaluation, and unless you're well-educated in how to do this, you're not going to be able to do it successfully. In franchising the Inside Story, I used a little mini test, entrepreneurial quiz that the Wharton School gave me that some people, can easily use to gauge their entrepreneurial talent or skill, but that's not exactly accurate when it comes to franchising, because, you don't need to be an entrepreneur to be a franchisee. And a lot of people, on one of the Twitter arguments that I had some time back with a guy was, what do you mean you're not to be an entrepreneur? You're going to get into business and you're going to open your own franchise. You better be entrepreneurial. Well, my experience is the more entrepreneurial you are, the less likely you are to succeed as a franchisee. And that's because when you're entrepreneurial, you're going to reinvent the wheel, and franchisors don't want you to do that. So, you've got to know your personality profile. What are your behaviors? What are your skills? What are your values? And by the way, the best way to do that today is to go to franchisenavigator.com, which I've discovered in the last maybe 3 months. I have written about it a couple of times in some of my blogs. More and more franchisors are using that, and if you haven't had Craig Slavin on your show, that's somebody who you ought to talk to. I do a lot of coaching with people, and I tell them that they need to go take the Franchise Navigator profile first thing, because that way, when I have their profile in front of me, I know the kind of franchise, or at least the industries that will work for them most likely and will not work for them. I also know if they're cut out to be a franchisee based on what I see. And, it's not foolproof, so you can't, this isn't just because you take a profile, you can't say to somebody, well, you're not a prospect for a franchisee. You certainly can be a prospect for a franchisee, but you may have to make some modifications to the way you manage business and approach business and think about business before you get into a particular franchise. And I'll give you a very good example of that. A lot of people, when I worked with mailboxes, et cetera, now the UPS store, a lot of people bought that franchise because they thought it was easy. And it was kind of a hot franchise. It was low cost. It was retail. It was you could open in a strip center, and people kind of got the idea that you worked behind the counter and customers came in and they bought stamps and they had packages and they needed copies and maybe they needed your notary service. And it was just a nice little 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 type of 5-day-a-week business. Well, the real money makers in mailboxes, et cetera, were never found behind the counter, or rarely found behind the counter. They were out on the street knocking on doors, getting small businesses to come into their mailboxes, etc., to do business with them. Volumes of copying and printing services and volumes of shipping. They didn't want to, ship a book or two at a time. They wanted 1,000 pieces of mail that you were mailing out, and they couldn't close at 6 o'clock in the evening. They had to stay open for the small business guy until 8 o'clock in the evening, and they had to be open at 6 o'clock in the morning in some cases. Well, a lot of those folks said, gee, I don't want to do that. I bought this because I sort of wanted to retire. Well, you could run the business doing that, but if that was your profile and your skill set and that was your value base, you weren't going to make six figures. You weren't going to do a couple $100,000 owning mailboxes, et cetera, or any of their competitors. You had to be a sales and marketing guy. And if that wasn't your profile, then you bought the wrong business.
Wow. So it's so key to, of course, do your due diligence, think about your quality of life, don't make quick decisions, don't go for the hot franchise. And by the way, Marty, that is a great quote in franchising.
Oh,
don't buy the hot franchise. Yeah. Fastest way to get burned. We keep track of all that, Dr. Hayes. Good quote.
Well, good.
Yeah. But, this is all great advice, of course. Talk to us a little bit about FranchiseMastermind.com.
Yeah, well, when I had been the CEO of what was a really terrific franchise company until the economy sort of took a bite out of it, and the company had to be sold. Most people would know it as We Buy Ugly Houses, and again, I started in 2001 as an advisor to the founder of that company, and then I went on his board, and I became a franchisee of the company as well, because it really was, at the time, that real estate investing was a sexy business, and everybody wanted to be in real estate investing. And We Buy Ugly Houses was the only business of its kind. There was really no competitor in franchising. So the company built very quickly, and I had a partner who ran my franchise in Dallas. We did very well with it. Unfortunately, the founder of the company got cancer, and he was given a few months to live, and he only lived a few months. And in that period of time, he asked me if I would become CEO of the company, and I'd been on the board at the time, and I said yes. And so and we continued for a couple of years building out that company up to about 265 franchises. And it was an amazing opportunity for me because I had not been a franchisor. I'd been a master licensee of an accounting franchise when I worked in the Philadelphia market, but I had not been a franchisor of a major company like this. And to have the opportunity to build relationships with franchisees was just terrific. And the first 2 years were great. The last 2 years were just horrendous as the economy, once subprime left the market, then investing in real estate became a nightmare. And it continues to be a very difficult industry for people. A lot of people who got into it are now out of it and wishing they had never gotten into it because they've lost a lot of money. But I left there in January, the end of January this year. And one of the things, when I look back on, okay, what am I going to do now? And I wanted to go back to a university, but I wasn't going to go back this year. I was going to wait some time and think some things through, and a couple more books that I want to write. So one of the things that I had done at HomeVestors, I created a mastermind for franchisees. Some of the better franchisees were not necessarily complaining, but they were saying, we've learned everything in the last 5 to 7, 10 years that we could learn, and we're not sure that we're going to renew our franchise agreement when the time comes. Well, I put 8 of those franchisees together in a peer-to-peer mastermind program that met quarterly, and I facilitated the mastermind and created a program that the peers would follow, and the purpose was one would be they would take turns being a host of the mastermind, and the host would tell their story. Here's why I became a franchisee. Here's how I built the business. Here's how well I've done financially and otherwise. Here's what I think my problems are. Here's what I like about the business. Here's what I don't like about the business. Here are the top 3 issues that I'd like to solve. Can my peers help me in the mastermind? That program became so popular, we ended up with 5 masterminds, and I taught other people how to run masterminds at HomeVestors, at We Buy Ugly Houses. So we had about 40 franchisees involved in a mastermind. So when I left, I said, the franchise mastermind is where I'm going to continue my blogging about franchising. So I have both howtobuyafranchise.com and franchisemastermind.com. And the franchise mastermind is more for the franchisor and the existing franchisee and multi-unit, multi-level, multi-concept franchisees and international franchising. And so I then decided that I'm going to launch I'm going to launch several different masterminds, one for franchisors, emerging franchisors who want to learn from other franchisors. I'm going to work in 2010 on putting a franchisor mastermind in place. And then I'm either going to do a franchisee mastermind where the 8 members are from different franchise companies, or in one case I'm talking to a franchisor who wants me to do the mastermind exclusively for their franchisees and put 8 of their franchisees into a mastermind. In that case, they'd all be the same franchisees. And then I'm also looking at doing a supplier mastermind because there are so many people who are trying to sell things to franchisors and franchisees, and they really need help in how to build their business. And so the economy has made it difficult to get those masterminds off the ground in 2009. So I've done a lot of pre-planning and a lot of thinking out the process for 2010.
That's great. But Dr. Hayes, you've been involved in franchise now since 30 years. I mean, what changes have you seen in that time? I guess it's a lot of them.
Well, the most obvious change has been finance. Mm-hmm. And my next ebook will be How to Get the Bank to Say Yes. I've done all the research and all the interviews on how to get financing. And the new order of franchising as we emerge, or the new order of franchise financing as we emerge out of this recession, a lot of franchisors are going to be left behind. A lot of multi-unit franchisees are going to be left behind without understanding that the new order of franchise financing requires you to be a different kind of prospect and is going to demand more of the franchisor. How about the day when you could just go find a franchise you wanted to buy. You could have a few dings on your credit history. You didn't necessarily have to have that much collateral. You could get some financing from the franchisor. If you were a veteran, you could get some help from VetFran. If the franchise company had any track record at all, even without an Item 19, you could get the funding through leasing companies and through a national bank, and you could then buy a franchise. Well, that is all gone. Those days are over. It's an entirely different story today, and many franchisors don't know that, or they don't know what the story is, or they don't know how to change their business so that they can meet the demands of the new order of franchise financing. So that's the biggest change that's occurred. It used to be much easier to be able to get into your own franchise and to expand it using other people's money. You're not so easily able to do that today.
Are you surprised about the number of systems there are today, Dr. Hayes? I mean, from when you started to where we are now. I mean, did you see it going?
Yeah, the growth has been phenomenal, and I often scratch my head and say, I love pizza as much as anybody else, and I have my favorite brands,
right.
And I don't know how many more pizza franchises we need, but I just had a call a couple of months ago from a pizzeria.
So if you'd like to order 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015, you can simply go to Amazon.com. So coming up in our next segment is a clip from one of the franchisors that were discussed in 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert Dr. John Hayes. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews.
one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where today we're discussing 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert Dr. John Hayes. And again, you can order that book directly on Amazon.com. So one of the companies that made the list was a previous guest on Franchise Interviews called Palm Beach Vapors, and we're going to go right into that interview right now. The ground has just been so cold, so it's been a very strange winter. So it's just such an interesting concept, and I think this concept has been gaining a lot of popularity, over the last year or two. Maybe you could describe the history of Palm Beach Vapors, Chip.
Sure, I'd love to, Marty. Basically, the way Palm Beach Vapors was started or conceptualized, the three principals in the business, two of us were smokers. Mm-hmm. And I was a cigar smoker, so I smoked about 3 premium cigars a day. Yeah, so I was spending a lot of money on cigars.
Sure.
Basically, we all three quit using vapor, and for whatever reason, Tulsa's kind of been the epicenter of the vapor craze. I would say we've had vapor stores here in Tulsa for probably about 4 years.
That's fascinating.
And so. One of the first vapor stores to come into Tulsa, that was where all three of us would go to get our stuff, our batteries and tanks and juice. And the customer service in there was just terrible. And, you'd walk in and you'd feel like you were walking into a skateboard shop or a head shop. And it just wasn't very warm and inviting. It wasn't inviting at all for, a professional type person to walk in. Personally, I felt intimidated walking in.
Sure.
So the three of us got together and we said, hey, we can do this better, and let's just try and open a little vapor shop, up in a suburb of Tulsa. And so we came up with a concept, and the concept was kind of a beachy, real open, airy, light, bright, vibrant colors, made it real welcoming and inviting.
Right.
And opened our doors, and really that store has made money every day that it's been open. It's just been absolutely phenomenal and crazy. That's kind of how we got started. So there you go.
That's fantastic. It's a great story, too. I love these stories. I teach marketing at Capital University, and it's just it's ironic. We're talking about the importance of creating a welcoming environment, and that is so important, isn't it? It's interesting how, you took your situation and you were able to identify this need in the market, and now you're satisfying this need, because I'm sure that there was a lot of people out there just like you, and your wife, who went into these places and they felt like intimidated, So I think that's so important, that you were able to satisfy that need. So I think that's great. You're listening to Franchise Interviews, and we're speaking with Chip Paul, the founder of Palm Beach Vapors. And maybe you could talk a little bit about, even like the product itself, Chip. I know there's a nice variety of like different flavors and things like that that you offer at Palm Beach Vapors, which I find fascinating.
Sure. So what we've done is something that's a little bit different on the product end. So all of the components that you need to, complete an e-cigarette purchase are, you need a battery, and the batteries that we sell are all rechargeable. So, you can basically, once you make the investment, you can use that forever. Right. And you need a tank, and the tank holds the liquids, and we've got a wide variety of run from sort of a disposable tank that you would throw away in 2 weeks, all the way to a very, very nice tank that would really kind of last you forever.
Wow.
And the thing that we've done in our hardware is we've made sure that all the parts are interchangeable. So no matter what type of battery or tank you buy, they will fit each other. So if you start with a kind of a basic battery, basic tank, and you upgrade your battery, your tank is still going to fit that battery. So it's a nice system, and all the hardware currently right now, and this is in any vape shop, comes from China, and we have learned some very hard lessons along the way about dealing with China. But what we've done is we've formed a sourcing company that it's not owned by us, but we've done it with some help from some friends. But that company has an office in Hong Kong, and a warehouse in Hong Kong, and then also has an office here in Oklahoma and a warehouse here in Oklahoma. So what we do is, before we purchase any hardware from China, we have the sourcing company go and tour the factory where we would be purchasing from. They tour the factory. They make sure that it's quality. They make sure that, it's not three guys and their mom over there assembling products, that it's the real deal. And make sure it's reputable. And so we do that before we purchase any product from any factory. And then the other nice thing about having them is they basically purchase products for us, and then they warehouse it here in the U.S. And so the kind of competitive advantage that gives our franchisees is they're able to receive product instead of ordering it from China, where it would take 4 to 6 weeks to arrive. They literally can get their product within a couple of days if they need to. So on the operations end, it makes it a lot easier on the stores. Now on the liquid side, what we've done is we've created a liquid system that is somewhat proprietary. But we are able to offer, and again, our liquids are all like U.S. kosher grade food products. Wow. So there's basically 4 components that go into our liquid. One of them is nicotine, and you can get our liquids in a 0 level nicotine with no nicotine in it. Okay. But we've created this system where it's very easy for our franchisees to create basically these liquids on site. And we've got 150 basic flavors that we offer. So, like I'm vaping on salted caramel right now. It's great. Wow. But we can mix and match any of those flavors to create just literally hundreds of thousands of flavor combinations. So, like if you liked, blueberry, strawberry cheesecake, well, we've got blueberry and we've got strawberry and we've got cheesecake. So we can combine those flavors to make you your blueberry, strawberry cheesecake.
It's incredible. I mean, when you talk about it, it's even with the flavors, Chip. I mean, I was amazed at all the different flavors that are available out there. What's your favorite? I mean, do you have a favorite flavor, and what's been like the popular or most popular flavors?
Oh, I'd say probably one of our most popular flavors would be the cinnamon red hot flavor.
Really?
It tastes like a cinnamon red hot.
Wow,
but
I
kind of like the more warm flavors. So I like salted caramel, and we have one called vanilla cupcake that I like, and Now, Cindy, my wife, and Angie, our partner, they like the more fruity flavors. So we've got some custom flavors that we've made, but like Bahama Breeze that's, got a little strawberry and coconut in it. And there's just a myriad of wonderful flavors. And it's great, really, for people who are wanting to quit smoking. Incidentally, we've got about a 95% success rate on helping people quit smoking. And that's really what we're committed to. Is we just see this as the best method ever to come along for quitting smoking. And what we do in our stores is kind of thing. We have a pledge. So if someone comes in and they bring in their last pack of cigarettes or half a pack or one or their last can of Skull or whatever it is, they come in, they bring that in, and they sign our pledge. And we have a pledge wall in our stores, and so there's literally a wall just plastered with these things. But we give them 25% off their first kit that they buy, and so that helps them kind of get started. And it's tremendously successful. It's really a kind of a neat business.
It is a neat business. When you look at the numbers, you can see the tremendous potential in this business when you look at the actual market size. But at the end of the day, you're also doing something really good, aren't you? Because as you know, it's very difficult to quit smoking, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And this just kind of gives you a transitional method to do that. And it's so, for instance, Cindy is kind of a great example. So Cindy, my wife, she was a pack-a-day smoker for, 12, 15 years. Right. She quit using vapor. Now, before she quit, she literally could not run a block. Right. But she quit about 2 years ago using vapor, and now she's a daily runner. She runs 3 miles a day. Yeah, and so everybody's always talking about how, is vapor harmful and, is it, and I think the book's still out on how harmful it is, but clearly, it is by far way better than tobacco smoke. There's no question about that. So, so it's really, it's neat. And, I've got a friend of mine, he's a ex-postal worker, smoked for 45 years. He tried patches, he tried gum, he tried acupressure, he got hypnotized, he tried everything in the world to quit. Nothing and worked. Couldn't. And, was able to quit using vapor about 4 months ago, and he hadn't smoked a cigarette in 4 months, which is just unbelievable. Wow. It is. It's amazing, Chip, when you hear these stories. Yeah, it is. It's inspirational, to show, how it works, and it's going to be interesting over time too. When you start taking market research, when you start expanding throughout the United States and see, what are the If you want to learn more about Palm Beach Vapors, you can read about them in 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert Dr. John Hayes. You can also order the book on Amazon.com. And you can hear the interview. You can hear the rest of the interview on franchiseinterviews.com. Just go to our franchises listed by alphabetically or franchise interviews by category. I believe they're under the retail category. And coming up in our next segment is a clip from another one of the franchisors that were discussed in 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015 by franchise author, franchise expert, Dr. John Hayes. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822. Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, and today we're discussing 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert Dr. John Hayes, and you can order the book directly on Amazon.com. So another one of the companies that made the list for 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015 was Postnet, and they were really a fantastic interview and a very great franchise opportunity. So let's go right into that interview with Brian Spindell of Postnet.
You've had a nice background, Brian. Talk a little bit about the history of Postnet.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we got involved in this industry when it was kind of in a fledgling state. I think there was maybe a couple hundred stores, if that, on the West Coast when we opened our shop in the Las Vegas area in '83. And as we became successful with that store, people would come into us and be shipping their stuff back home from their visit with their relatives in Vegas and saying, hey, listen, there's nothing like this in Pennsylvania. What is this thing?
Right.
And it didn't take too many people asking us that before somebody asked us to help them get started. And we started in 1985 helping others into the business, but we did it the only way we knew how, which was independently. So people would choose their own name, and we'd help them find a location and help them get set up. And but it wasn't a franchise because there was no trademark and there was no royalties and there was no control and so on and so forth. And then as the business and the industry kind of became more competitive, more complex, more sophisticated, into the late 80s and early 90s, we felt the need to sophisticate ourselves and become more structured in our approach. And so in 1991, we started putting the pieces in place to start the franchise program, and in July of 1993, we rolled it out. So it's been an evolution, and even as recently as 5 or 6 years ago, we around our 10th anniversary in franchising, we started on a new strategic planning process, which the product of which was a new store design, new training, new vendors, and the diversification from just the pack and ship into the digital document services. So our stores today do a lot of printing, copying, digital printing, finishing services, and that's been a big growth area for us in our stores. So while these stores started as a kind of a convenience business for a homemaker wanting to ship some birthday presents,
right,
it's now we're still serving that customer, and we want to continue to serve that customer. That's why we go into retail strip centers, but we also now have a business-to-business component that's strong and growing.
That's fantastic.
And
one-stop shopping, Brian. It makes it easy for the.
It's important today. I mean, everybody has less leisure time, less time with their family,
right,
and especially with energy prices and everything else, people have to become more efficient with the way that they approach things.
Absolutely.
And so doing more than one thing at one location makes a lot of sense. And of course, our stores are very diversified when it comes to our product and service mix.
I agree.
Yeah.
And with so many people wanting to start up their own business, and sometimes their funds, their capital a little tight, a business like Postnet is perfect. You can handle everything. Get everything done and still make it look like you're a very large company. And
and that's our primary customer. I mean, small office, home office, business startups, home-based businesses, micro businesses. They use us as their outsourced resource. I mean, our store a lot of times is their office away from their office. And and they use us for their mailing address. They use us for their copy services, their printing. They use us, for their, to receive faxes for them. So we can become their mailing address and a lot more. So.
Did you and Steve really align yourself with experts, consultants, as you were going through the franchising process? Or you guys had about close to 10 years in the business. I guess you did a lot of it yourself, or did you have some consultants?
Yeah, well, when we were thinking about starting the franchise, we took it very seriously because we had we had a good deal of competency when it came to helping people find their location, negotiate a lease, and get their store built. But the whole piece on the back end, which was really a big responsibility, which is to support them and have vendor relations programs and manage a national advertising fund and provide them with technology on an ongoing basis and put controls in place so the brand is protected. All of those things we weren't really sure of, and that's why we got involved in the International Franchise Association, quite frankly. So we didn't use a lot of consultants, kind of pay to play consultants per se. But the IFA has been great because it's allowed us to network with franchise executives that have been there and done that, and that's kind of why we've gotten so involved ourselves now that we have the experience and the knowledge. Kind of trying to give back to new franchise companies, So we, that's why we're as involved as we are, because we initially were the beneficiaries of the IFA and the collective wisdom of a lot of people in franchising that helped us.
Are you pretty amazed by just the growth of franchising, Brian? What's been going on the last 5 years? I mean, it's just pretty incredible. Marty and I always talk about the stats: over 80 industries, around 3,000 franchises.
I am amazed, but I'm not surprised. I mean, franchising done right, let me put it that way, is a very powerful vehicle. And I heard you guys talking earlier about entrepreneurialism and, our franchisees, entrepreneurs. Well, I can tell you from my experience, franchisees certainly have an entrepreneurial spirit to them. And as a franchisor, I think that any franchisor that tries to squash that or clip their wings, so to speak, is kind of hindering the success of the franchise organization. So I think that there's a delicate balance, by having open channels of communication, collaboration, kind of a very good culture in your franchise organization, you can leverage your franchisees' entrepreneurialism for everybody's benefit, because the best ideas and the best input and things come from franchisees that are entrepreneurs. They're thinking every day about how to do things better.
That's interesting. Yeah, that was something I was reading in your philosophy, Brian, that you guys really do value the input of your franchisees, and I think that's very important. Don and I, since we've been doing the show, I mean, we've come up with great stories, haven't we, Don, as far as like even McDonald's, some of their best ideas have come from the franchisee. So I think that's very important that you guys do that.
Right. Well, and I think that any organization that doesn't is kind of setting themselves up for relationship problems down the road. I mean,
I agree.
Those open channels can feed your ideas, but also they can make you aware of franchisee dissatisfaction, franchisee issues, franchisee concerns, and it allows the organization to address those issues before they become big problems. And I've seen a lot of good franchise concepts hindered or taken down by just relationship issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
how do you describe the PostNet franchise system to a potential franchisee, Brian?
Well, what we do is we try to make them aware of the fact that our owner operators are hands-on owner operators, that they're involved in the community, and our concept is a very diversified concept. So we're serving, as I mentioned earlier, both the consumers that live in the area, live and work in the areas, that have personal needs to have items shipped and mailed and things like that, but we also are servicing the business community with the document services, the printing and copying and finishing and everything else. So we're looking, for somebody who is looking for a hands-on opportunity, and also understands the importance of servicing both of those communities and becoming active. So generally, the concept itself is, these are not new services and products. People, these are not, shipping a package or having something printed or outputted is not a new service. It's bringing it all together in a outstanding environment. We have a really great store design that we've developed with a proven system. And then having local execution with respect to the franchisee becoming a part of the community is what our concept's all about.
Such a large customer base. I mean, I guess that's why PostNet is so successful. I mean, that combination of the consumer and the business community, all these services in a convenient manner is, I guess, in a nutshell, why you guys are having such nice growth.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of crossover business too. I mean, once a customer tries us and starts using maybe one service, what happens is they start getting comfortable with us. And PostNet's goal really is to become the
If you want to learn more about PostNet, you can read about them in 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert Dr. John B. Hayes. You can also order the book right on Amazon.com. So coming up in our next segment is going to be another clip from one of the franchisors that was discussed in 12 Amazing Franchise Opportunities for 2015. And we're going to that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews. And today we're discussing 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert Dr. John B. Hayes. And again, you can order the book directly on Amazon.com. So another one of the companies that made the list, and they were also a previous guest on Franchise Interviews, was America's Swimming Pool Company. And we're going to go right into that interview right now. Of America's Swimming Pool Company. At America's Swimming Pool Company is the nation's most respected swimming pool maintenance and repair franchise. Hey, Stuart, how you doing? Welcome to the show today.
I'm great, Marty. Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure, Stuart. It's really a timely show today. I guess it's pretty hot out there today, but I suppose where you are too. Where are you calling from today, Stuart?
We're in Georgia, right in the center of the state, and yes, it's about 80% humidity, and probably be 110 by the end of the day.
Yeah, good pool weather, right?
Exactly, good pool weather.
My sister, Stuart, recently just got a pool, so I feel like I'm becoming not an expert, but just more knowledgeable on pools, and it just, so much work. So, there's a lot of reasons we're excited to have you on the show today. You have a great story, a little bit. If you could tell a little bit about your background, like maybe what you were doing before, founding or joining America's Swimming Pool Company.
Sure, absolutely. I founded the company in late 2001 upon graduating from college. Knew I wanted to transition into the business world, into self-employment. Didn't know how, what, or what field that would be, and basically stumbled upon the swimming pool industry just here in Georgia. I'm just here in Macon, where I'm originally from, south of Atlanta. Launched the business in the original location, grew it over the next 5 years, and eventually had our flagship location to develop the franchise model based around. And we began franchising in late 2005, and really where our growth and expansion has come from.
Wow. Did you know, like, early on, Stuart, that you were going to, use the franchise model?
No, good question. Would have absolutely told you you were crazy in the beginning if you had asked if that was a method for expansion. Would have never didn't know enough about the franchising world to even understand that. It was a world I wasn't familiar with. So when we realized that could be a potential for expansion and could be a model for growth, I spent about 4 months studying the franchising world and the service industry world, which really opened my eyes to that being a possibility.
Wow. How do you describe the franchise system, Stuart? I mean, as far as, like, when you guys are, like, let's say you're at a franchise show, how do you typically describe the franchise system?
Sure. We're entering and tapping into a home-based service sector in an incredibly fragmented market. That's the one premise that our franchise owners understand, is that we're not entering a pest control business. We're not entering a home painting business. We're entering a market where there is no national brand on the swimming pool level. There is no market-to-market competition across different sectors. We're really entering in a relatively new industry. I mean, the swimming pool industry on the service side is not an old industry. We're entering in a very mom-and-pop and rural service sector. And so our franchise owners are business-minded individuals that realize they can enter that sector for low capital, low overhead, low risk, and high profit margins.
Wow, which is, I guess, probably surprising, right, to some aspiring entrepreneurs. I guess they probably think that this is, like, really expensive to get into, and it's really not, is it?
Exactly. We're in a business that you're able to enter into with very low overhead and risk, because you're not opening a restaurant, you're not putting a fleet of vehicles on the road from the beginning. You're entering a business with it requires blood, sweat, and tears in the beginning, and you can really grow with your business. You can expand with the revenue expansion, and that was what appealed to me in the beginning, 10, 11 years ago. It's really what appeals to most of our entrepreneurial owners today, being able to expand with the expansion, with revenue growth.
Wow. I work with a group called the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, Stuart, and a lot of them are listening to the interview this morning, just so you know. A lot of them feel that,
sure,
at a young age it's difficult sometimes to, get into a business at a young age, and it was one of the reasons I certainly wanted to have you on the show today. What advice would you give to them? I mean, my students who are in, like, their 20s to 30s, and they want to do something like this, and they feel like there's just so many obstacles. What would you say to them?
It's very interesting you asked me that question, because I look back and I'll tell you, I won't give them the same advice that I was given, which was by a local entrepreneur that I met with here right before I launched, right before I tried to make this decision. I went and sat down and met with him, and his advice to me was absolutely under no circumstances should you start a business fresh out of college or in your 20s. You have enough, time, experience, expertise, capital to do it. And I feel the opposite. I think that, especially as I look back, if you can identify a need or any brand or any market that you can tap into, to me, one of the best things that we as young entrepreneurs have going for us is the fact that we've got time on our sides. Yeah. Sometimes we've got blissful ignorance on our side, and we've got just plain the ability to work hard. And to me, some of our most successful franchise owners and successful entrepreneurs I know have started at a very young age and been successful, but because of that. So I think that if you identify any sort of brand or need or market, give it a shot, tap into it, work hard, outwork your competition, and there's no reason that you can't make it as good or better than the next guy.
Wow, that's great advice. This is very well said. So the industry, it sounds like this is a pretty big industry, Stuart. I mean, are there any numbers, as far as like growth and things like that, or?
Sure, yeah. The industry as a whole, even though it's fragmented, as I called it, and relatively young in the scheme of business in general, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, we are part of what we would consider, and our wholesalers consider, the recreational dollar industry, meaning someone's either going to put a pool in their backyard or renovate their backyard experience. That dollar competes with boat sales and RV sales and home remodeling sales. So, we're in a multi-billion-dollar industry that's growing even through the recession. While home construction might be down, and therefore new pool construction might be down, the pool service sector, people repairing pools, renovating pools, fixing problems, we've seen a steady climb on. Our same store sales and same franchise sales year over year, we're up 45% as a company this year. We were up just under 50% in 2011. So we've been able to really put our nose to the grindstone and push hard through the recession to grow sales, by marketing and reinvesting back in our franchise system, and working hard at the end of the day.
That's great. We've common theme over the last several years on the show too, Stuart, has been the word staycation. I can't tell you how many times it's come up. People staying home and investing, like you said, into repairing their pools and all that other stuff. It's been a common trend. It seems like here in the United States. So it does. It makes a lot of sense in everything that you say. What's been to put you on the spot? I'm sure there's a lot of stories you have, but what's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you since starting the company? Again, I know you must have 100 stories, but does anything stand out?
Oh, good question. To me, if you look back over the entire life of the business from the very first, pool we ever cleaned, I think the most surprising or one of the proudest times we've ever had was when we launched that first franchise. We launched that first new owner who had no training and no business background with us, and we had no websites and national presence. And getting that first profit and loss statement on that second or third month from that owner, and actually seeing him take our business model and some of the easy, intricate things that we do as a company, and actually making it a dollar, turning that first dollar, that first profit, in another market, in another city, via our model. That to me, I will go to my grave with that memory of seeing someone else make a dollar with our business model, and knowing that we really had a platform to build off of, to grow off of from there. So that stands out to me more so than any other memory I have.
It's great, and it's we've done almost like 300 shows up to that point, and very similar response a lot of times. You've probably heard that about 5 times on the show up to this point. It's always your first one, it seems like, what I mean, where you get that profit and loss, and you feel like you said, oh my God, I did that, or I was partially responsible for that, and the ability to be able to change lives now, is
well, and that was the case with our first two owners specifically, but and why they stand out so much. Both were looking for a new opportunity, a new life, so to speak, and to be able to feel like we helped provide that platform was very powerful.
Yeah. So if you'd like to learn more about America's Swimming Pool Company, you can read about them in 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015. You can also come back to our website, franchiseinterviews.com, and go to our franchise listed by alphabetically page and listen to that whole interview. So coming up in our next segment is going to be another clip from one of the franchisors that were discussed in 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews. And today we're discussing 12 amazing franchise opportunities for 2015 by franchise author and franchise expert, Dr. John Hayes. And again, you can order the book directly on Amazon.com. So another one of the companies that made the list was United Franchise Group, and we had them on our show, it was about a year ago, and I thought they were a fantastic and very interesting franchise. So let's go right into that interview with United Franchise Group. What about on this show is we tell our listeners to look at the experience of the leadership of the company. And Ray, you and Tony have been doing this a very long time now. I mean, between the both of you, you have really decades of experience. And Ray, I thought you could talk a little bit first about your background, and then Tony, we'll jump right into you as well.
Right. Okay. For me, I started the company in 1986 with one Sinorama store. But prior to that, my 8th grade school paper was how to start a franchise company.
You're kidding. Wow.
My father had started Minuteman Press in the early 70s. And so I learned directly from him, and we worked together, and he helped me tremendously. And, in starting Sinorama, we started franchising a year later, and today we're the world's largest sign company 25 years later, but have started 5 other brands along the 25-year stretch. The second one being Embroid Me, and that was about 11 years ago. Embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products. And we have about 400 of those out there in 15 countries.
Wow.
And,
that's incredible.
Then Billboard Connection, which is our outdoor advertising company, and we do, offer outdoor advertising to small, mid-sized, large businesses out there, and that's a home-based opportunity.
Right.
And then we have Plan Ahead Events, which is our event planning franchise, and we're now approaching 100 of those in 5 countries. And Transworld Business Advisors, which is our business brokerage and franchise consulting franchise opportunity. We have 50 of those. And lastly is Super Green Solutions, which is our energy-efficient products from solar panels and wind turbines to air and water purification systems that we have one store and are starting franchising this year with. So overall, we have about 1,400 franchisees in 52 countries worldwide, and continue to build and grow our organization. And Tony has been with us now for, Tony, what is it, 20?
Well, it's officially, Marty, 22 years, I think it is now. I've known Ray for about 25 years, but 22 years, and along the way, it's exciting to say, we started with the Sinorama, and when we were just here in the U.S., now, as Ray said, 52 countries, and our newest one is opening up in Zambia, in Central Africa, as a matter of fact, as a master license. So I'd say the last 15 years out of that 22, I focused strictly on international growth and development.
Wow. I mean, 52 countries, Tony. Where do you begin? I mean, you have a pretty big job there, huh?
Well, it just keeps escalating, and this year we're very, very aggressive. Already we had our strategic planning, which we do every year at the last quarter of the year, and went over it with Ray, ironically, yesterday, and I said, Ray, we've got an aggressive first quarter. We'll be probably visiting 12 different countries in this first quarter alone. So our philosophy has never been to be passive. We're very aggressive as far as bringing the word to the rest of the world on our brands and aggressive in that area. So the U.S. Commercial Service has been a big partner of ours, and we're very pro business, positive to franchising globally.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like so you're using master franchising for international expansion, Tony. I mean, what do you look for in your master franchisees? I guess it's a different ball game than just looking at a franchisee and the traits of a franchisee and their experience. It's I guess on a bigger scale, would you say?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a good question, Marty. I get that asked, like, well, what is the DNA, so to speak, of a master candidate? And I go, you know what? We go through a step-by-step process. It takes a while to identify that. But I would say overall, entrepreneurial skills, certainly a business/management background helps.
Right.
They don't need specific industry knowledge if it's Signarama. We're not looking for sign makers. We're looking for more developers who can develop a country, not just run a franchise outlet.
The other side to that, Tone, if I could interject, is in Australia, we run Australia direct. So we have 13 full-time employees and have about 135 franchisees just in Australia alone, and with our different brands. So that's a really good part of our company that's done very, very well. We also currently have offices in England and run that direct, in Canada and run part of that direct. And in some brands we have master licenses in Canada, and some brands we run direct, and that's the same in the United Kingdom as well. But in the other 48 or whatever countries, we are in the master license program, which we offer and build and grow. And in some cases, master licenses take on more than one country. Right, Tom?
Right.
I mean, we have a couple of areas like that.
No, we do. We have once you establish a relationship with people like that, Marty, what it's been beneficial for us is that now you've got a partnership formed, and it's a long-term view in our case with a master. And as Ray said, yes, some take on expanded roles. It's a regional master license.
Right.
And then the other is the benefit with us, now we've got 6 brands, as Ray just ran down the lineup, and a master may have started with one brand, and now in some cases they've got 2 and 3 of our brands.
That's fascinating.
So it's really a built-in engine to expansion once you've got a good relationship with somebody.
Yeah, like in New Zealand, where our master license holder, Grant Archibald, there for Signarama, he did a great job building Signarama in New Zealand up to 22 franchises, 23 franchises, and then took on Embroid Me, and now he's also the Embroid Me master there, and he's got 10 of those in building and growing that one over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The same thing has happened in South Africa. Same thing has happened in Europe, in a couple of Spain and a couple other countries. So we see this co-branding opportunity and being able to utilize our brands and to choose between which brands they like or want to grow and expand with our company. And obviously, they pay a lot less for that second brand than somebody on the outside would pay. So, it's a built-in way for them to build and grow and to, economically do it the right way. And for us, we don't have any cost of sale, no advertising costs and nothing else like that way. Well, Tony's making a call to master licenses on a regular basis and saying how we doing, where we at, and going through their goals and setting them up for the next brand to build and grow and do better.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. So, Ray, what do you look for? I remember when you guys took on Embroid Me, I guess you said it was like about 11 years ago. What do you look for when you're bringing on a new brand to the United Franchise Group? I mean, what was it about some of these different concepts that you thought it would be a good match?
That's an excellent question. We're very selective in what direction we're going to take our company. One of the first things we are looking at is, how does this brand or industry fit with our others? What is the mix or match between the synergy, Tony, between the brands? And at this point, we are really, really focused on that as far as making sure that the addition of an Embroid Me is a huge benefit to the Signarama franchisees, which it was. And each one that we've added has actually helped the others expand and grow, and to the point where we actually have a whole program called StarPoint Services, which is a third-party organization that we've set up to promote all of our brands. So we can do the golf tournament and do the signage and the tournament party through Plan Ahead Events, and the signage through Signarama, and the shirts and caps and tees and golf balls through Embroid Me, and then the outdoor advertising for the event through Billboard Connection. And so, I mean, there's a lot of synergies that we can do within our brand. So that would be the first thing we're looking at. Obviously, the overriding factor is the success and the need for the services and the business itself. We don't invest in any opportunities or any industries that haven't been proven. We're only going to go with a proven commodity, or we have to prove it ourselves before. And that's why people buy a franchise. So we're not going to start something from scratch and then hope it works. We're going to make sure that it does. And if we are doing something out there like a partnership, like we have a joint venture partnership with our Transworld, and Andy Cagnetta, who is the president of that brand for us and does a wonderful job. Well, guess what? He's been in the business brokerage industry for almost 20 years himself, and brought a wealth of information and incredible knowledge with his team and his people, and matching that up with us, with our franchising skills and our backgrounds, was a perfect marriage. So we're looking for excellent partners, excellent joint venture arrangements, and synergy among the brands.
Interesting. So what characteristics do you look for in your franchisees then, Ray and Tony? I mean, again, at the shows, I always see there's so many people standing at the table trying to get information on the company. What characteristics or traits do you look for in the franchisees?
Well, Marty, let's get something really straight up front. Tony usually is offering free TVs, flat screens at the show on the side.
Is that what it is?
No,
I can never get close enough to the table to talk to you.
We actually have people that come up to us at the shows and actually ask us, what are we giving away, or what are we, and it's really funny because they actually think that that's the reason people are interested in, and that's not at all. It's just that, look, from our point of view, when we go to do a trade show, we're going to build brand awareness for our company and our franchisees. So we're going to talk to everyone. We don't go to a trade show looking for the needle in the haystack. We go to a trade show to promote our brands to everyone. Because you never know who's going to be a customer at one of our stores, or who's going to know somebody who knows somebody that could be our largest account. So we go in with a different type of attitude than maybe other franchise companies that go in to try and sell a franchise. We're not trying to sell franchises. I mean, there's people there that think. They look at our booth and how crowded it is, and they think we're trying to sell franchises. But really what we're doing, our number one goal is to build the brand awareness to everyone out there as to what we do, who we are, and how we do things. And if they're interested in a franchise, certainly we're excited about growing our brands. But in the same breath, if somebody said, look, I'm not looking to buy a franchise, but I'm looking for a job in one of the stores, or I have a friend that's a vendor. Those kind of contacts are priceless for us. So we're very, very excited about building our brand.
So thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next week with another edition of Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.